I'm at Liosnanouros. It's one of the remotest doors that I've been to. Door's sort of semi-open. A little bit tricky to drive up here. I do have a small car, but I don't know if it was the last storms where quite a bit of the road's been subsided, so be very careful when you drive here. Worth the visit, of course. There we have the door that's leading up to the fort of the Doras, Liosnanouros. This is hosted by Teresa and Mary McVeigh. So this is actually known as the Fort of the Doors, and I think the fort is in the distance there. I hope you can catch it on the video there. It's starting to cloud over a bit, and there's a signpost that says to the fort. Well is needed. Means climbing over the electric fence. I'm not actually going to do that myself today. It's the last day I'll probably be out and about looking at the doors, so I'll have to sacrifice the walk to there, and I'm not even going to phone up and listen to the story here. I'm going to actually do that at home because I want to get to the rest of the doors that I can in this area before it gets dark, and this is the last day I think I'll be out and about. So apologies for not doing a thorough visit as I usually do. I will listen to the story at home. Sorry I'm not doing it authentically. I'll do a review after I've heard the story in my home studio when I get back. Nice to be out here and see this. There's probably a story to this door as well. So I called the number on the door at Liosnanouros to hear what Teresa and Mary McVeigh had to say. And it turned out to be one of the shortest recorded storytelling sessions out of the whole, 20 doors I've been to so far. But it was still very unique compared to the others. Also still very, very interesting. And it was Teresa who started, and she introduced her mother, Mary. And Mary quickly moved on to telling her stories. Now, the first thing that struck me about Mary was her accent. It sounded very much like the elders I was familiar with on the Scottish Hebrides that I used to know. And it didn't take long before Mary actually did reveal that her family used to commute to Scotland with the men. She didn't describe it that much. Mary quickly went on to say that she was an only child, but she was never ever lonely because there were 9 local friends that lived in homes nearby, and they did a lot together. They actually ventured a long way. They went amongst the trees. There's a lot of woodland there. And she describes how herself and the friends always knew every bush and every tree along the local roads and even off of the roads. The children themselves used to collect sticks to take home too. And that was play that I even did as a child. I remember that. I was always told that when I went out to play, never come home without an armful of sticks. So that was obviously very much the story with Mary. Mary got married in 1965, she said. And it sounds like that once she got married, she never actually commuted back to Scotland, but remained in Liosnanouros ever since their wedding. From that point, she goes on to telling her own family story and about past neighbors that used to live around them. She described in quite detail how they used to get together at nights, and that was to sort out, they'd be around the fire in the cottage at nights, and first they would be getting together to sort out any local business and plans. Wasn't the sort of thing that they did on phones or on WhatsApp the way we do now. People would get together in the evening, they'd come with their information, share it, sort of delegate with each other, and any concerns with each other, all that be sorted out. And it sounds very much like what we had in Scotland on the islands there. When you do this, when you all get together in someone's home, it becomes a very tight, supportive cooperative. So the business affairs of your community become an equal sharing, and with equal benefits. Because I really have wonderful experience, memories of people that used to come together at our cottage, or we'd go off to someone else's cottage. And it was funny how we used to decide which cottage it was. We had binoculars and telescopes. We'd all be looking out. It's funny, you'd be looking to the other side of the valley, and you'd look to see the other people with their binoculars and telescopes looking at you as well. But at some point, someone would move from their cottage to the next cottage, and you knew that's where the meeting was going to be that night. So I can imagine a similar thing happening here at Liosnanouros as well. This was the sort of thing that was done in the cottages. It was never done in the village pubs or the village halls, like how people in rural communities, that's how they have the meetings today. They go to pub saloons or to the village halls. Everything was done in the cottages. And then Mary finished off by saying that her and her daughter Teresa, they're now the only people living on the townland. And at that point, Teresa took over the storytelling and went straight into why the townland translates out as four to the doors. And she says the translation of the townland name has various interpretations, and the favorite one of hers is translated out as being doors of the future. You know, what are these doors of the fort? What are they? What's their role? And her interpretation that she liked was doors of the future. So I thought, oh, great, here we go. I thought we were now into a juicy folklore session that was about to start, especially related to my own promotion of ourselves getting connected to clairvoyance of the land. But alas, no, that didn't happen. Teresa cut that short and went on to talking about the arrival of the Scottish planters that happened way back in the 16th century, and how the planters then started pushing a lot of the population of Liosnanouros out of the area. And from that, Teresa quickly moved on to how modern tree plantations, forestry, the sicker spruce, and how that is quickly doing the same thing as what happened when the planters came in. It's just about moved everybody else. It's just Mary and Teresa that's there. A lot of the heritage and stories have gone too. Now, neither Mary or Teresa talked much about how the townland was or how they farm it or how it was farmed, but Teresa did mention how their townland is full of acidic grassland. And around the doors, you can see in the picture behind me, it's surrounded by an electric fence, some barbed wire as well. So I assume there must be some livestock that grazes behind that fence or is about to. There is directions to go into. I didn't jump over the fence. I didn't jump over the electric fence. I also wondered when they talked about the people in the area, I wondered if them men worked at other things, hence why there was this commute to Scotland. The reason for that is because in the Hebrides, I actually employed Donegal and Sligo men and met others who had come to work on the islands to work on buildings, building repairs, especially roof repairs. They did fishing, they did stonework, they did carpentry. But at best, they were great at fixing leaky roofs. Say I employed people from Donegal and Sligo, Leitrim. This is North Leitrim now. That's only a little way away. So no doubt some of them went to Scotland on the same route. Liosnanouros, it is in North Leitrim. And Teresa's very passionate. So Teresa moved away from the plantations and clearances to talk about the wildlife that surrounds them. She talked quite a bit about the birds that surrounds them, especially rare birds that are in abundance in this area. They mentioned about the curlews and the corncreeks, which are still very abundant here in Liosnanouros, despite the encroaching tree plantation, because usually a sicker spruce tree plantation actually drives a lot of bird species away, especially the corncreek and curlews, but they're still there. And Mary explains the reason they're still there is because there is still abundant flora that's growing in the existing fields here. And also because of the hedges, there is a lot of pollination goes on. And when there's pollination, that means there's plenty of insects. When there's plenty of insects, that's plenty of food for the curlews and corncreeks and other birds to feed on. So there's biodiversity present that keeps rare species of birds still hanging on. Finally, Mary does talk about the origins of that door that's there. You'd have to listen to the phone message to hear about that. It was very brief, but that was it. That was the end of the telephone message. Very short, actually, very interesting. Worth a visit, but a little bit of an awkward road to get up there. I had trouble because not only extremely narrow, but it's subsided in the weather. But if you can, if you've got a small car, give it a try. It's a lovely visit, very pretty, great feeling to it. So that's Liosnanouros. Look forward to the doors, and you can use your imagination of what those are doors to. Thank you. So I look forward to coming back to you again with another one of these Amach into the field doors very shortly. I look forward to telling you a story from another door in this Amach to the field story doors. I've got 3 more to get to. I'm going to try and get to this afternoon. So looking forward to you joining me.